Welcome back to Read and Reflect, the podcast that delves into the world's most thought-provoking literature. Today, we embark on a journey to an imaginary island, a perfect society envisioned by the brilliant Sir Thomas More in his seminal work, Utopia. In this episode, we'll introduce you to More's vision, explore key excerpts that reveal the intricate fabric of utopian life, and then dive deep into the enduring themes and symbols embedded within this classic. We'll analyze the characters who guide us through this ideal world, understand the historical and cultural forces that shaped More's writing, and even touch upon how Utopia resonates with modern adaptations of ideal societies. Get ready for a journey through communal living, unconventional values, and timeless questions about the nature of a perfect state. For me, Utopia has always been more than just a work of fiction. It's a fascinating thought experiment that challenges our assumptions about how society should be organized. It holds a mirror up to the flaws of our own world while simultaneously prompting us to consider the potential for radical alternatives. The enduring power of this book lies in its ability to spark debate and inspire us to imagine a better future, even if that future remains just beyond our reach, like the island of Utopia itself, or Nusquama, meaning nowhere, as More sometimes called it. Our exploration of Utopia begins with the circumstances of the book's creation. Sir Thomas More, born in London in 1478, was a significant figure in his time, serving as Under-Sheriff of London and later even Lord Chancellor under Henry VIII. Utopia, written in Latin, was first published in 1516. The book is structured as a dialogue between More himself and Raphael Hythloday, a well-traveled philosopher who claims to have lived on the island of Utopia. This narrative framework allows More to present his radical ideas through the voice of Hythloday, creating a distance that both invites consideration and allows for potential critique. Let's turn to some key passages that offer a glimpse into the utopian way of life. Passage 1. The Critique of English Society.
There is a great number of noblemen among you that are themselves as idle as drones, that subsist on other men's labor, on the labor of their tenants, whom to raise their revenues they pare to the quick. This, indeed, is the only instance of their frugality, for in all other things they are prodigal, even to the beggaring of themselves. But besides this, they carry about with them a great number of idle fellows, who never learn any art by which they may gain their living, and these, as soon as either their lord dies, or they themselves fall sick, are turned out of doors. Now when the stomachs of those that are thus turned out of doors grow keen, they rob no less keenly, and what else can they do?
This powerful indictment, voiced by Raphael Hythloday, highlights More's concern with the social and economic inequalities of his time, particularly in England. The rise of enclosures, where land was converted from arable farming to pasture for sheep, led to displacement and poverty, which Hythloday directly links to crime. He argues that the severe punishment of theft is unjust when the root causes, such as lack of opportunity, are not addressed. This excerpt sets the stage for the utopian alternative, a society designed to eradicate such injustices. Passage 2. Communal living and the absence of money.
There is no reason for giving a denial to any person, since there is such plenty of everything among them, and there is no danger of a man's asking for more than he needs. They have no inducement to do this, since they are sure they shall always be supplied. It is the fear of want that makes any of the whole race of animals either greedy or ravenous. But besides fear, there is in man a pride that makes him fancy it a particular glory to acquire. Utopians, there is no room for this.
This passage reveals a cornerstone of utopian society: communal ownership and the absence of private property and money. In Utopia, all goods are held in common, and people take what they need from public stores without exchange. This radical departure from European norms aims to eliminate greed, envy, and the vast disparities in wealth that More critiques earlier. The lack of monetary incentive might seem counterintuitive, but the utopians believe it fosters cooperation and ensures everyone's needs are met. The text explicitly links the desire for access to pride, a vice that Utopia seeks to suppress. Passage 3. The Utopian Philosophy of Pleasure.
They reckon that all our actions, and even all our virtues, terminate in pleasure, as in our chief end and greatest happiness, and they call every motion or state, either body or mind, in which nature teaches us to delight, a pleasure. Thus, they cautiously limit pleasure only to those appetites to which nature leads us. For they say that nature leads us only to those delights to which reason, as well as sense, carries us, and by which we neither injure any other person nor lose the possession of greater pleasures, and of such as draw no troubles after them.
The utopian understanding of pleasure and happiness is more nuanced than mere hedonism. They believe that true pleasure aligns with nature and reason, encompassing not just sensual delights but also intellectual pursuits, good health, and the well-being of the community. They reject superficial pleasures like the obsession with fine clothes and precious stones, seeing them as based on foolish mistakes. This emphasis on virtuous and communal pleasures contrasts sharply with the individualistic and often exploitative pursuit of wealth and status in European society. Passage 4. The utopian view of gold and jewels.
They eat and drink out of vessels of earth or glass, which make an agreeable appearance, though form the brittle materials, while they make their chamber pots and close stools of gold and silver, and that not only in their public halls, but in their private houses. Of the same metals they likewise make chains and fetters for their slaves, to some of which, as a badge of infamy, they hang an earring of gold. And thus they take care by all possible means to render gold and silver of no esteem.
This striking image of gold and silver being used for the most base purposes powerfully symbolizes the utopian rejection of their intrinsic value. By associating precious metals with servitude and bodily waste, they invert the European obsession with wealth and status symbols. This deliberate devaluation is a key mechanism in their communal system, eliminating the allure of hoarding and the social hierarchies built upon material possessions. The Animalian ambassadors' misguided attempt to impress the utopians with gold and jewels hilariously underscores this fundamental difference in values. Passage 5. Religious tolerance in Utopia.
At the first constitution of their government, Utopus, having understood that before his coming among them the old inhabitants had been engaged in great quarrels concerning religion, after he had subdued them, he made a law that every man might be of what religion he pleased, and might endeavor to draw others to it by the force of argument and by amicable and modest ways, but without bitterness against those of other opinions, but that he ought to use no other force but that of persuasion, and was neither to mix with it reproaches nor violence.
In stark contrast to the religious conflicts that plagued Europe, Utopia embraces religious tolerance. The founder, Utopus, established a law guaranteeing freedom of belief, allowing individuals to practice their chosen religion and even proselytize peacefully. The only exception is for those who deny the immortality of the soul and divine providence, as they are seen as undermining the basis of social order and morality. This emphasis on tolerance, born from the recognition of past religious strife, is a remarkably progressive idea for More's time. These excerpts provide a fascinating glimpse into the utopian ideal. Let's delve deeper into the key themes and their analysis. Social justice and inequality. As we saw in Hythlodae's initial critique, Utopia is deeply concerned with the injustices arising from social and economic inequality. The utopian solution of communal ownership is a direct response to the problems of poverty, exploitation, and crime that More observed. The symbolism of shared resources extends beyond mere economics. It represents a fundamental shift in societal values, prioritizing collective well-being over individual accumulation. Today, these themes remain incredibly relevant as we grapple with widening wealth gaps and questions of social responsibility. The utopian model, though perhaps impractical in its entirety, forces us to confront the ethical implications of our own economic systems. Another important theme in Utopia is governance and law. The utopian political system emphasizes reason, deliberation, and the common good. Elected officials, including the suffragants, later philarchs, and tranibers, later archphilarchs, govern with a focus on preventing conspiracy and ensuring decisions are well considered. The simplicity of their laws stands in stark contrast to the complex and often inaccessible legal systems of Europe, which Hythlodae criticizes for enabling the wealthy to manipulate justice. The symbolic image of the prince being distinguished only by a sheaf of corn underscores the utopian rejection of ostentatious displays of power. This raises timeless questions about the ideal form of government and the role of law in creating a just society. Wealth and materialism are aloes among the key themes of the book. The utopian attitude towards wealth and material possessions is perhaps one of its most striking features. Their deliberate debasement of gold and silver highlights the corrupting influence of greed and the superficiality of status symbols. By valuing things based on their utility rather than their scarcity, the utopians create a society where genuine needs are met without the obsessive pursuit of luxury. This challenges our own consumer-driven culture and prompts us to consider what truly constitutes value and happiness. The pleasure and happiness. The utopian philosophy of pleasure, grounded in virtue and reason, offers a compelling alternative to purely sensual or materialistic pursuits. Their emphasis on intellectual development, good health, and communal well-being as sources of true happiness resonates with philosophical traditions that prioritize human flourishing. By rejecting fleeting and potentially harmful pleasures, they aim for a more sustainable and fulfilling existence. This invites us to reflect on our own definitions of happiness and the values that guide our lives. Religion and tolerance. The utopian embrace of religious tolerance is remarkably forward-thinking for its time. In an era marked by religious conflict, More presents a society where diverse beliefs coexist peacefully, united by a shared understanding of a supreme being. The emphasis on reasoned persuasion over force in matters of faith is a powerful message. While their exclusion of atheists reveals the limits of their tolerance within the context of their societal values, the overall principle of religious freedom remains a significant contribution to discussions on religious pluralism. Let's analyze the characters. Raphael Hythloday. As the primary narrator of Utopia, Hythloday serves as More's mouthpiece for critiquing European society and presenting the utopian alternative. His extensive travels and philosophical inclinations lend credibility to his descriptions. He is unwavering in his admiration for Utopia and outspoken in his condemnation of the flaws he perceives in other nations. However, his somewhat absolute perspective leaves little room for nuance or compromise. Thomas More as a character. The character of More in the dialogue represents a more pragmatic and cautious perspective. While he acknowledges the wisdom in many utopian customs, he also expresses reservations, particularly regarding the communal living and lack of money. This internal debate within the text highlights the complexity of More's own views and prevents Utopia from being read as a straightforward blueprint for an ideal society. His final statement of wishing rather than hoping to see such practices adopted in European governments encapsulates this nuanced stance. Now let's focus on the context and cultural influence of Utopia. Thomas More's Utopia was crafted during a pivotal time in European history, an era marked by the sweeping intellectual currents of the Renaissance and profound societal upheaval. The early 16th century saw the rise of humanism, a movement that placed emphasis on classical learning and the potential of human intellect. More, a distinguished humanist, was influenced by thinkers such as Plato, whose Republic resonated deeply within Utopia's framework. At the same time, England was experiencing significant economic and social transformation. The enclosure movement, which converted common lands into private sheep pastures, was creating widespread poverty and dislocation among the rural population. More's critique of societal inequality in Utopia directly reflects these contemporary realities. His vivid depictions of communal living and resource sharing emerge as a bold alternative to the exploitative practices of his time. Utopia emerged during the Renaissance, a period of renewed interest in classical learning and a spirit of intellectual inquiry. More was a prominent humanist scholar, and Utopia reflects this intellectual climate, drawing inspiration from Plato's Republic and other classical ideals. However, it also directly engages with the social and political realities of 16th century England, including the rise of capitalism, social inequality, and the complexities of governance under a powerful monarchy. Hythloday's critique of the idle nobility and the consequences of enclosure directly reflects these contemporary concerns. The book's cultural influence has been profound. The very word utopian has entered our lexicon to describe any ideal, often unattainable, social or political vision. Utopia has inspired countless subsequent works of utopian and dystopian literature, prompting ongoing debates about the nature of ideal societies, the balance between individual freedom and collective well-being, and the potential pitfalls of even the most well-intentioned social engineering. Modern adaptations, whether in literature, film, or even social experiments, often grapple with the same core questions raised by More's original vision. The themes of Utopia have had a profound and lasting impact worldwide. More's vision inspired political theorists, social reformers, and even experimental communities. During the 18th and 19th centuries, figures such as Robert Owen and Charles Fourier were drawn to the ideals of shared resources and collective living, attempting to establish their own versions of utopian communities. In literature, Utopia set the stage for the exploration of ideal and dystopian societies alike. Modern works such as Aldous Huxley's Brave New World and George Orwell's 1984 grapple with the challenges of implementing utopian ideals, often highlighting their potential to lead to authoritarian excesses. More's creation has ignited philosophical debates on governance, communalism, and human nature, extending far beyond its initial publication. In today's complex world, Utopia continues to hold relevance. Issues such as income inequality, climate change, and social polarization compel us to revisit More's vision. The principles of communal living and equitable resource distribution resonate with modern movements for sustainability and social justice. However, More's ideas also invite critical examination, particularly around the balance between individual freedoms and collective well-being. For example, the absence of private property in Utopia challenges capitalist norms but raises questions about human motivation and innovation. Similarly, Utopia's approach to suppressing pride and greed offers a thought-provoking model for a less materialistic society, yet its feasibility in diverse cultural contexts remains debatable. At its heart, Utopia reminds us of the power of imagination to envision alternatives and inspires efforts to build a better, more just world, even if perfection remains elusive. Thomas More's Utopia remains a powerful and relevant work centuries after its publication. Through the fictional journey to this imagined island, More offers a sharp critique of his own society and presents a radical vision of an alternative based on communal living, reason, and the pursuit of genuine happiness. The book's enduring themes of social justice, governance, wealth, pleasure, and tolerance continue to provoke thought and challenge our assumptions about the best way to organize human society. Join us next time on Read and Reflect as we explore another literary landscape that grapples with the complexities of human nature and societal structures. If you enjoyed our exploration of Utopia, please subscribe to Read and Reflect and leave us a rating or review. Share this episode with anyone who loves thought-provoking literature. Thanks for turning the page with us.